Chris Sanigar. You're here with Lee Selby. He's just signed with Matchroom Sport. How does it feel?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great opportunity for Lee, and it's it's going to be live on Sky. Everyone, in boxing is going to see him, and we're just very excited.
You've worked with a number of boxers from the southwest and Wales for a number of years. You mentioned in the press conference there that you think his talent is incredible, and you've seen him being sparring out in the States. How far do you think Lee Selby can go?
I think Lee Selby can go all the way. We've got to do it by step, just like he's done in the past. But what we're hoping to think is not just create a champion, but to create a great champion. Someone like Hamid, who went over to the States and continually beat the Americans.
How important at this stage of Lee's career is it to be going over to the States and getting that tough sparring in the Tocco's gyms, the Mayweather gyms at this stage of his career?
It's very important to be taken out of your comfort zone. Here in England, and it's sort of understandable as well, the top boys don't want to spar with each other because naturally just down the road they may have the box, and naturally, I know it, sometimes sparring is different, but if you come on the wrong side of sparring with one of your contenders, it's not good for the head. All of a sudden you think, oh, he was a lot stronger or this and that. Whereas it's better to box on the unknown, and also it's better for people, like Conor said, don't worry, you'll be okay in that. Whereas if you've sparred with a guy and he's give you half a belting, you think, well, no doubt, will I be okay,
And the fighters over in America, they may not necessarily be known fighters, but I guess everybody's got something to prove, have they? And Lee's somewhat of an unknown over there.
That's right. You're on the big stage, and there's been times when Mayweather's been down there, watching. Everybody wants a piece of the action, They want, Money Mayweather, and everyone wants a little bit of it. So, yeah, everyone is trying to impress, and people are there from all over the world, just, hoping that, somebody looks at you and goes, hey, you've got talent and that. We've had lots of offers, but we feel at the moment this is the best route for Lee Selby, boxing on Sky, and trying to build his profile.
How did it come about going to the States? Have you got a lot of contacts there from your years in the business, or did you just go out there and knock on a few gym doors and turn up and hope for a spar?
Yeah, no, I have a lot of contacts out there. One of my best friends is Bose Edwards, and he was a former world champion, with Mickey Duff, and so it's quite easy. He's the matchmaker for Mayweather. So because not only that, I think sometimes you're made unwelcome as well. It is that intimidation. Everything is set against you. So in Mayweather's gym we're made very welcome, and also with Freddie Roach. We were in camp with Freddie Roach over there in the Channel Islands with Steve Collins, so I've got a very good relationship with him. In fact, I've got too good a relationship with both of them, and it's quite difficult really because they're both camps are adversaries with Pacquiao and Mayweather. But naturally my allegiance is with Boza and that. But it does get someone uncomfortable with it because sometimes. When Freddie says to me, he says, "Oh yeah, so when you're in Vegas, Chris, where'd you go?" I go, "Oh yeah." I say, "Oh, we go to Tacos and we go to 50 Cents and we do." Yeah, I say, "We've been to Mayweather's a bit, and vice versa." Yeah.
Lee's got the kind of style that's going to appeal to the younger audience. The younger audience probably, they may have heard of your name, but they maybe don't know so much about you, Chris. You've been in the game a long time. Could you just tell us a little bit about your background, how you came into the sport and what you've achieved in the sport?
Yes, I came into the sport, as an amateur, but came in it late. I didn't have my first fight until I was 19, and but I quickly went sort of through the ranks. I boxed for England, and I sort of did it that was the old school way, that's what you did. got to thing. I was an ABA finalist in '77. You know, I boxed for England. Then when I felt it was time, I turned professional. That was in '78, and you know, and then I lived in Bristol. There hadn't been a professional boxer since for 20 years, so it was a big thing. I had to come to London. You know, I was in a little bed sit. Yeah, I had to share the toilet and bathroom with 2 other families. You know, I mean, yeah, it was tough. You know, and I had 31 fights. I only boxed twice in Bristol. You know, so like where my other fighters, they haven't boxed anywhere else. You know, so it was very, very, very tough. The great champions that were in my gym as well. There was John Conti, Bunny Johnson, Bunny Sterling, Bose Edwards, Kirtland Lang, Dennis Andrews. You know, it just goes on, and I'm sure there's loads that I've forgotten. It was a lot better than a lot of the champions are today.
It was like a who's who of boxing back then. I mean, Kirkland Lang, obviously, great fighters, Andrews as well. So you've taken that experience and you're able to pass that on to someone like, obviously you've had the sort of Dean Francis of the world and Glenn Catleys, but you've been able to pass it on now to Lee Selby, and you've talked about how you've brought him through non-televised shows, small hall promotions to this stage. It must be quite a satisfying thing for you working with Lee to see him now being on the bigger stage on Sky Sports.
Most definitely, and that's what I specialise in. You know, I work with a small amount of boxers. You know, for just over 20 years, and I've brought 6 through to become British champion from their very first fight. You know, Glenn Catley, I had him from a 14-year-old boy right through to the WBC champion. I had Haskins from a 14-year-old boy right through to European champion. So yeah, that's what we do. You know, we work with quality rather than quantity. You know, and it's nice to have these boys all the way through. You know, I've seen them when they've had their first girlfriend. You know, suddenly they buy their first car, their first house. You know, and all these things you see, and it's great to see them growing up. You know, in our gym, in the Bristol Boxing Gym, we have kids from like 9 years of age, and go all the way, through. We have non-contact classes. You know, so it's not. You know, this is really the forefront of everything, but we're back down to the normal thing. We get back and we're training boys and girls now of 9 years of age.